Hello, Dan. We're a few days removed now from the tragedy of Saturday at Lapu Day. The city, everyone from the mayor to the councillors were reacting and addressing concerns right from the beginning. So what has happened on the city side of things?
Well, the day after the tragedy, Mayor Ken Sim announced that he was ordering a full review of the city's event safety policies, including traffic plans and barriers, the use of barriers and things like that. And then just yesterday, Wednesday, the mayor announced at City Hall that that work was already underway, and they were expecting an early report back within a matter of weeks. He said they hope to get some early info within weeks. And then also the premier also announced that the province is doing its own independent commission and hoping to report back by next month to try to give best practices and stuff for event organizers. The idea was that people having events this summer can
Yes.
try to have more information about how to best uh, practically hold events in a way that's as safe as possible, but still allow these events to happen, recognizing the importance of these events to the community. People don't want to live in a city or a province that doesn't have events and get-togethers and festivals and things like that. But obviously, safety and security is top of mind for a lot of people right now.
Who will be conducting the city review? Is it city staff, or they bring in somebody from the outside?
My understanding, I believe it's a staff review. I think staff are at work on this already. And the city's uh, public events, or the city's event team is kind of a mix of it includes members from different departments, right? So they've got obviously the police, but I think they've also got people from engineering and other departments, um, yeah, the fire department, and different, so it's kind of a multi-departmental group. Anyway, so the city is working on that right now. And as far as the provincial review, it's going to be an independent commission. So the Vancouver city staff are doing their own review of the city's policies. The province has asked for they've announced that they're going to be doing an independent commission. Premier Eby said earlier this week that they are already talking to a commissioner. He has a commissioner in mind who he would like to lead this. His office is already engaged with this person, but we don't know who it is, and they hope to be able to announce a name soon. So it sounds like more info coming soon.
Well, a big part of this, as you're saying there, is we're heading into festival season in Vancouver and around the province, and some very large ones. And there's, I imagine, for the civic leaders, a part of this is just trying to give people some confidence that these events can be held. And again, for context, we hold them every year, and we hold obviously big ones like the Pride Parade and the Chinatown Parade and the fireworks and any number of ones in between. So and they go off without incident for the most part, right?
Most of them do. Most of them go off without incident or without major incidents. I mean, I think any event big enough, there'll be there'll be some incidents. But I mean, the Lapu Day Festival itself, acting Vancouver Police Chief Steve Rye commented that last year's festival was zero. It was basically incident free, and the police were, keeping an eye on it. They had a safety plan in place, and last year was this, wonderful family friendly day, which it sounds like Saturday was up until this horrible moment that it wasn't. But yeah, no, the vast majority of these events happen they've got robust security plans in place, and they do their best. But there's also obviously a level of unpredictability with any event, big or small. And there's not only targeted violence, but accidents can happen too, right? And they obviously do their best to try to reduce the risk, but there is a risk.
Now, you've been spending the last couple of days talking to some experts here and in other parts of the world about just what you can do to make things safer. You'll have a piece coming up this weekend, but what sort of top of the pops? What are you hearing from people?
One thing kind of that came up in the wake of this specific tragedy, because obviously this was an incident of a vehicle ramming into a crowd, which is something that we've heard more about happening around the world. Like, sadly, Vancouver kind of joins a list of different places that have had incidents, whether they're accidents or they're terrorism related or they're not terrorism related, which every indication is that this is not motivated by terrorism, what happened in Vancouver. But there's been incidents in France and Spain and the UK and Toronto. Toronto, there was a horrible van attack that killed multiple people. They were just walking on a sidewalk. And then so this Vancouver one. So anyway, in the context of vehicle attacks, which seem to have become more common around the world within the last decade or so, one of the things that we learned about is there are some vehicle blocking barriers, which the city of Vancouver Police Department had actually ordered a bunch of vehicle blocking barriers. Basically, they were inspired to do so. I spoke with the Vancouver Police Department spokesperson Sergeant Steve Addison, who said the VPD decided that it was worth investing in these barriers in the wake of the New Year's Day vehicle attack in New Orleans. So in New Orleans, the United States, and this was that attack appeared to have been motivated by a sort of a terrorist ideology. It was a lone wolf kind of terrorist attack. Many people were killed in New Orleans, and then in the wake of that, the VPD was researching what are possible preventative measures. And so they have ordered these vehicle blocking barriers, which I think, as we speak, are on their way to Vancouver right now. And the idea with these things is they're relatively mobile. Like a single person can move these things around using like a dolly type thing, but they can stop a vehicle moving at a high speed. Like they're used in combat zones to protect military targets. That they're approved by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and so they're coming from a U.S. company, which started out as a company supplying the U.S. military, places like Kandahar, and over the last decade or so has increasingly been providing these products to municipalities in the U.S., in Canada, different parts of the world. So these might become a more common sight in Vancouver in the future, these mobile barriers. And so that's one thing. And then, yeah. And then,
Europe, often
sorry?
in European cities, they will have those automated,
bollards.
Bollards. Yes.
Bollards, they call them. Yeah. And so in some cases, there's permanent fixed bollards, which are just kind of like, these things that protrude out of the ground and basically stop vehicles from getting through. And in some cases, they have ones that kind of go up and down, depending on the time of day or depending on if a certain event is happening, to sort of keep vehicles out, both, in terms of a potential attack or just people accidentally driving, not knowing, this is pedestrian only, or this area is pedestrianized at this time. Because obviously in these European cities, a lot of European cities, or big parts of them, were designed before cars existed, right? So you have these narrow streets that are largely kind of pedestrian friendly, and in some cases are pedestrian only, but they found that having these bollards are kind of more effective than just having a sign that says no cars.
That's an interesting point. You mentioned the accident the situation in Toronto, which wasn't related to a festival, but it was someone deliberately driving up onto a sidewalk. And we look at, what Vancouver is trying to do and what many cities are trying to do, which is create more pedestrian-friendly zones, whether that's along the New Broadway corridor or by closing off side streets. And we started seeing more of that during COVID, and some of that has remained. And obviously, there's a stretch of Granville that is pedestrian and bus only. So as we create more of these spaces, yes, exactly. As we create more of these spaces, we probably need to have more of a conversation about security and keeping the cars out.
Yeah, I think so. Because, unlike Paris or Barcelona or Madrid or whatever, unlike these older European cities, most of Vancouver was designed with cars in mind, right? And cars have largely been a lot of the city was designed for cars, and not just City of Vancouver, but Metro Vancouver.
Yes.
Arguably even more so in the rest of the region, right?
Yes.
And so it is kind of, I think, taking a bit of a rethinking about how we can protect these areas. I mean, you look at those, and again, it's not only from attacks, but from accidents as well.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, the city of Vancouver installed these sort of barriers that are just meant to, they don't block cars, but they kind of force you to slow down coming off of main streets onto some side streets. A few years ago, or a year or two ago, it kind of went viral. There was an image of someone who had just driven up on top of one of them, which the
Right.
proponents of these traffic calming measures say it kind of demonstrates the need for them. For a person to drive up on top of that thing, which is this bright yellow barrier, and again, there's no indication they were doing it on purpose, but they would have had to have been driving pretty fast and not paying attention.
Yes.
So if there had been a patio sitting there instead of a barrier, could have been tragic.
Right. All right. Well, Dan, I'll let you get back to working on your story, and I look forward to reading it this weekend.